welcome back to Hobbies and Stuff in the Shed, filmed in glorious potato vision. So, here's my thing I'm working on today. Got a big shed, and as you can see, I got, whoever owned the house before me, they built this lean-to out of old doors and some, what looks like it might have been good wood at one point, but just stuff that they found when they were renovating the house, right? So I got a bunch of wood and junk back here. So this is where the lawnmower, the snowblower, garden tools, that sort of stuff lives. The challenge I have is here in Lindsay, we only get yard waste bags collected twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. But as you can see, that's not going to do for me. Just raking the leaves once, or cutting the grass once, is 20 yard waste bags. And I don't have a pickup truck, so I need to figure out what to do. Here's what I'm going to do. We have wood, we have a box and screws, we'll figure it out. So a buddy of mine was very nice and gave me a whole bunch of wood skids. I got a whole bunch of crap back here. So what we're going to do, we're going to build us a shed, just a shack really, for the yard waste bags. So here's the plan. Make the base out of the skids. I'm going to use, some of these look like they were, so again, some of this was found here in the house in the yard, but some of them look like old floorboards. Some looks like ceiling boards, wall boards. Some I even got from Home Depot for, or Home Hardware, sorry, for a good deal. That's all just scrap wood, right? So I'm gonna screw all those into the base so that the base has less holes in it. We're gonna put the walls vertical beside it. We're gonna have one wall taller than the other, and we're gonna have a sloped roof. Again, made with all the scrap wood. It's going to look ugly as sin, but it's at the back of the yard. No one can see it but my neighbor, and my neighbor doesn't really care too much. And that way, I have somewhere to put the leaves and the grass clippings and junk from around here in July, when I have another 4 months to go before the yard waste bag day. So, wish me luck. Okay, here I am on day 2 of building the shack for the garden bags. So here's what I've got so far. Put a couple pallets down on the ground. I'm going to have a couple for walls, and I'm just putting down some old scrap floorboards here. So I've just laid them down on the ground here for now. Next step is going to be to screw them in. I'm going to cut off the tips on the ends. Doesn't need to be pretty, just needs to keep the worst of the rain off the lawn cuttings until the next weekend when the garbage department decides to come along. So, stay tuned. Alright, so here's what I'm thinking. I want to build it this way. The floor is going to be basically 2 skids with floorboards on top of them. And I'm going to build it so that way, essentially, the 2 skids are independent. I'm not going to tie them together. Because eventually, what's going to happen is these skids are going to rot out, the floorboards are going to rot out, I'm going to need to replace it. So here's what we're going to do. The walls are going to be sitting on the ground, not on top of the skids. Because again, these walls are going to rot out, so I can replace these wall skids very easily down the road. And everything's going to be made so that it's basically sort of like a modular kind of thing, because I'm going to have to redo this at some point anyway. Good news is skids are cheap and easy to come by. Now, what I'm going to do next is I got to figure out, well, where am I going to find all my fasteners, my screws, my nails, and whatever. Good news, I have a literal junk drawer of nails and screws and junk. So what I'm going to do, I have some 3.5-inch screws. Those I'm going to use to secure the walls and the roof together, because those are like a structural thing. But I got a whole bunch of these nails, and I got my grandfather's hammer. Alright, Grandpa, let's get to work. Alright, so got them all nailed down. All I did was just take some nails and just put them in there like that. So, nails are probably too long for the job, but oh well, it does the trick. So you can see, I can lift this all up like that. And I guess if a bunny rabbit gets under there, then the bunny rabbit's going to have a bad day. But now, all I got to do is come along with a circular saw, trim off the ends here that are sticking out, because I don't want those hitting me when I'm using this thing. And then we're on to the next step. Okay, so got my cuts with the circular saw. It's looking not terrible, not great, but not terrible. So now we're going to go and sand off those rough edges. Give it a quick little hit of this. And it's raining today, so I've been in it. That's why I haven't had the camera set with recording this whole thing all the way through, because I don't want the camera to get wet. I'm having to go in and out of the shed with the tools, keep them out of the rain. So maybe next time. Anyway, later in a few more minutes. Okay, so here's the next step in the master plan, so to speak. So I got the base here. Okay, so floorboards are fine. Now, I gotta make sure that the roof is gonna be on an angle, because I live in Ontario and we get snow. So I need to make sure that's a steep enough angle that I'll be able to get the snow off of it. And I won't need to put like a support beam in the center. May still need to do that, but try and avoid it if I can. And I also want it to be tall enough that I can get in here without having to bend in half. So I figure this height here, that's about 4.5, 5 feet or so. So that'll give me enough room where I gotta bend a little bit in order to get in here. I'm a little hunched over under here, but I'm only like half bending my knees, and I just need it to be enough in order to keep the rain and the snow off the yard bags. It's not like I'm going to be working in here. So that's probably good enough. So now the next trick is securing all these walls together, because I got 2 pallets stacked on top of each other. This is one, this is another solid one, this is another 2. So what I got to do is tie this together with some screws, tie this all together, and then I've got all these gaps, so I'm going to have to take a bunch of the other scrap here and fill in the gaps. This is going to be my gate, because it's nice and light. And I got a piece of, I don't think it might be 1/4-inch plywood. It's light plywood anyway. But this will go about there, and that should do fairly nicely for a gate. Enough that I can get in and out with a hinge. Hell, might even just lean the damn thing up. Okay. So now, this is the fun bit, tying all this together. Oh, and I should also say, I got these boards from Home Hardware. They were on a clearance sale. $15 got me a bunch of them, and they're all tongue and groove. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the roof out of this, because I can interlink them together with a tongue and groove, and that will keep the rain from getting in underneath. And I think I should have just enough to cover the width that I'm covering. So, anyway, for you, it'll be a second. For me, it'll be a couple of drinks. See you later. Alright, here we are. So, it's looking a lot more like a shack now. let me show you what I got going on here. What I did was I leaned up skids next to each other, and I put a handful of screws through them, so you can see one here. Yeah, it's not perfect. Definitely, I would not say this thing is structurally sound at all. This is definitely just a shack. The roof, I'm actually kind of enjoying the roof. So the roof is these interlocking tongue and groove panels I got from Home Hardware on a really good deal. I think it was 15 bucks for all of this, because they're all like offcuts and, you know, scraps, right? But because they're relatively light, what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw them into this board here, which is just sitting on top of the skids. And then I'm going to screw them into here, which again is just sitting on top of the skids. Then I'll drive a couple of screws through here in order to make sure that this board that's resting on is secure against the skids. And then we're pretty much done with the bulk of the structure. I do need to fill in all these open spaces, and I figure what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my best to find a board that would overlap, like go from here to here, and then that will help tie together the structure a little bit here. So, anyway, for you it'll be a second, for me it'll be a couple more beers. See you in a minute. Okay, here we are. It's been a couple of hours, I think. So here's where we are. Got my roof on. Got my walls all tied up. Okay, so let me show you what we did here. So inside here, so these are still held together with those little screws there. So they're coming in from here. It's definitely not structurally sound, but the roof, so I got the roof tied in from above down into this 2x4 from a wood pallet. A couple of them came through the wrong spots, so I had to fix that. And then from over here, so it goes from underneath up into the roof. And I was lucky, I found a great big long board. Ow! I gotta wash my head in here. Found a great big long board to cover that big gap there for the snow when it comes. And got this here is a front wall. So now, what I need to do is I need to think about the structure of the roof, because in Lindsay, in Southern Ontario, we're going to get snow very soon, and there's no way this is holding any kind of weight. I do not trust this with any weight of actual snow on it. So we got to prop it up a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sister some 2x4s along here to go up and carry some of the weight down. So I'm probably just going to wind up like finding a 2x4 and just like screwing it into the side from here. Then in here, I want to try and find a board or a piece of wood that would be long enough that I could prop it up like that in order to help carry some weight in the center. And then I figure that should be good, because right now this roof is really only being held in by a couple of screws here, which is definitely not ideal. But where there's a will, there's a way, and with enough of my scraps, I'm bound to find something out here that I can jury-rig into doing the trick. So, wish me luck. Alright, so it's been a couple of beer breaks, and good news, I got some progress. So here's how our little shack is looking. So I've got the wood skids up here, I got some extra floorboards and slats nailed on. Solved the problem of holding up the weight of the roof by taking some 2x4s here off of other skids, stacking them on top of some shims and this other 2x4 down here, so that'll carry that weight down, hopefully. And then I've also got this beam here It's just the right height. I tapped it in, wedged it in here. And then you can see all through here I filled in as many of these gaps as I can with whatever spare slats and floorboards I got. I found this old piece of lattice. That'll fill up some of this for a little bit. Might just go see if I can find some people with extra lattice, just do more of that. So, the good news is it doesn't shake near as much as it used to. But I have a problem. I just broke my favorite hammer. This was a family heirloom. It belonged to my grandfather. And I know it's probably a worthless hammer. It's just a wooden handled hammer. But, bloody hell. You know when tools get sentimental attachment for no reason other than just, you know, that they're good tools? Sorry, Grandpa Norm. By the way, if anyone knows how to fix this, let me know. I'm pretty sure all I gotta do is just knock out the wood from inside the head and then put a new handle on it. I'm sure it's not complicated. I'm sure it can't be that hard to do. But, maybe that's a sign that I should have another beer break. Alright, well the next step on here is fill in a few more of the slats and to build the door. So, what I'm thinking for a door, I've got a couple choices. One is I've got this chunk of fence board here. Could just prop it up and lean it like that. It feels really heavy though. I don't know if I want to necessarily do that. But I do have a sheet of plywood and a really lighter slat there. So I think what I might do is try and nail those together into a panel that I can just kind of move back and forth. It doesn't need to do much. It just needs to keep the worst of the rain and the snow off of my yard waste bags. Again, the whole reason for this is just because here in the city of Lindsay, we only do lawn waste pickup twice a year. And as you can see from my lawn, twice a year is not going to cut it when all those leaves start to come down, or when there's a storm or whatever. So, anyway, I'll see you in a minute. Alright, so I'm going to call it a day and turn this project in. It's definitely not 100% finished, but it's good enough for now, and it's getting to be supper time, so I need to go clean up and get myself straightened out. My hand's starting to clamp up from using the hammer too much today. So here's what we got. We have a dirty, ugly shack, enough to put our yard waste bags in it in order to keep the rain off them. So, yes, it's not waterproof. We have gaping holes, but I don't have enough extra wood to do the entire thing in full panels. So what I'm going to do is, the next time that I get some skids, I'll take the slats off and I'll layer them on top like that. So that way I'll have like one on top of the other, and that will basically cover it. Now over here, you see the same sort of thing. Zoom out a bit here. So it's definitely not pretty, but roof will keep the water out of the way. Enough for now, anyway. My door, so what I did was I took a piece of plywood and a little square rectangle slat thing, and I'm just going to have to sort of pick it up and carry it over. So I'm not going to bother with putting a hinge on this thing. I'm just going to pick it up and drag it. I mean, really, the only thing that's going to be ever getting in here is me with my yard waste bag, so it'll be easy enough just to move it aside. On the inside here, I'm going to have to see if I can put something there. See if I can find a I'm sure somewhere in the scrap file I got a patch I can use. But this will do for now. So, thank you for joining me on another adventure here, hobbies and stuff in the shed, building something like a shed, and safe travels. See you later.